Is this lip gloss too much? Like too bright? I don't know. I'm looking at myself in the mirror just opposite the phone and I'm like, I don't know if I did well with this one, but let me know. Let me know if you like this one, if I should keep this one. It's a new one, so I'm going to like I'm experimenting a little bit with my colors right now. So let me know if this is a good summery color and if it suits me. Anyway, welcome or welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. I am going to be doing my May wrap up, well overdue, because I didn't really have any time to film before this, but I do want to talk about the couple of books that I managed to finish in the later part of May, because I already did a recent reads video for the first portion of the month that you can check out in the cards. And then for the last couple of days within May, I didn't really read a lot, so there's not too much to talk about, but there's a couple of books that I definitely want to mention because a couple of them are ones that I absolutely loved and a couple of them are really popular books that I wanted to just let you know my thoughts on. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with a bang, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book really blew up everywhere, I think, on Bookstagram and on Booktube as well. I'm not on Book Talk, so I don't know what's going on there, but I can definitely say that almost everyone that I follow is interested in reading this book or has already read it. And there's a lot of split kind of opinions about this book, so I was really curious to see how I was going to react to it and how I was going to like it. I didn't vlog it because like I mentioned, it's been kind of hectic in my life the past couple of weeks because I was traveling, so I couldn't really vlog that, but I am very also kind of split on it. I did give it 4 stars. I have to say that because it was really kind of a page turner for me, I did enjoy it and I'm very interested in continuing on with the series. That kind of gave me the idea that it really was an enjoyable read for me, so I gave it 4 stars. But I do have to say that all of the remarks that I've heard here and there about the book, meaning the negative remarks, are ones that I can definitely understand why people would feel like that about this book. But before I go on about my opinions on it, let me just tell you what the book is about if you by any chance haven't read it yet. It's a fantasy series. I think it's considered new adult, although it kind of reads as a young adult at times. So it's a new adult fantasy series where we have our main heroine, Violet. She lives in a world where her mother is like a high up general within the society that they live in, and her mother has 3 children and all of them were kind of set to go into specific paths, and whenever they turn a certain age they would need to kind of choose their professions depending on what their parents wanted to have them become. So yeah, her brother went into being a writer, but I think he passed away or just something happened to him. And then the older sister also became a writer. She's now like in her 2nd year of training. And then Violet was actually supposed to be a scribe, so she wasn't supposed to be a rider, meaning a dragon rider. She was supposed to be a scribe, which is something like a scholar, so someone who is really into diving into books, libraries, figuring things out about their world. So she was supposed to be a scribe, but then last moment her mother decides that Violet should be a writer as well, so she needs to go through this gruesome training to become a writer. And within this training, a lot of the cadets, or I don't know how to call them, so a lot of the participants don't actually make it, so it's really brutal. They have a lot of trials to go through, and the situation is that Violet actually has a chronic illness, meaning that it's going to be extremely difficult for her to go through all of the trials like the rest of them, especially because most of them are really prepared, while she didn't know that she was going to be doing these trials, so she's completely unprepared for what is ahead of her. So I found that it was quite well paced. that's why I was really involved with the story and I really flew through it, even though I don't know how many pages it is, but it's not a very short book. So I flew through it. I was very well engaged with it. But I do know that a lot of people had some thoughts on the fact that it really read as a young adult series, that the world was a little underdeveloped, and that the romance wasn't, like, it was kind of predictable for me as well, and that you don't really get the connection very well between Violet and what was his name? Xander or Xavier or what? I don't know what his name was, but with the hero, the love interest. So yeah, I get those points. I do get those points, and those are really valid points. But I'm really interested in seeing how Rebecca Yarros is going to continue on with the series and whether we're going to get more in depth into what is going on between the hero heroine, also to have more world building within this world. And I love the fact that we have dragons within this book, because I haven't really read too many books that involve dragons. And then also the fact that we have a bit of a cliffhanger in the end, which piqued my curiosity. I wanted to know what is going to happen after that cliffhanger, so I'm definitely invested in continuing on with the series. That's why I gave it 4 stars, and let's see in November, once the second book comes out, whether I'm going to enjoy it as much as the first one, whether I'm going to have more thoughts on where the gaps are within this world and this setting. So yeah, for now, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Give it a chance. Maybe you'll like it as well. And then just keep in mind that there may be some gaps that may kind of make you feel like it's not a 5-star read, just like me. So those are my thoughts on Fourth Wing. And yeah, basically I have read other Rebecca Yarros books that I have enjoyed. I think this is her first fantasy book, so we're giving her a shot here, right? We just want to see how she's going to do with the next one. And it was a good debut fantasy try, right? I don't think that it was a bad book. So yeah, give it a try if you want to. So for the next book, even though the premise is kind of silly and it kind of made no sense for me that there was this very big rivalry at the beginning of the book, kind of felt a bit childish in the beginning. Even though it started off like that, I still gave it 5 stars, because the execution after that first couple of chapters was just really, really good, in my opinion. We have The Frat Boy by Nikki Sloane. And I have to say that Nikki Sloane is really one of the queens of spice, of steamy romances. She does it just so well. I feel like she has very original types of spice settings, because at times when you read romance that has a lot of sexual scenes or a lot of chemistry or a lot of scenes where we see the actual act, it kind of could get a bit, I don't know, corny, awkward, not very original. And I find that Nikki Sloane always finds a way to bring her A game when it comes to the spice. I felt that this book was really originally done. And I don't know, I just felt like, even though the start of the book did not make very much sense for me, at least as a reader, it just picked up so well after that. That was just it. I couldn't not give it 5 stars, let me put it like that. So let me tell you what the book is about. We have 2 frat houses. The guy within the book is part of one frat house, the girl part of another. They have this kind of annual competition going on with like a specific like obstacle track they need to go through, and the winner of that competition will get a specific prize. And both of the frat houses are really into this competition, because it was going to be like the anniversary of this competition, so they really want the bragging rights as well as the prize. And during that competition, something happens that makes both of them, we have Colin, the guy, and then Madison is the girl, they both of them really get into it. I just don't want to spoil what happens there. And then because of what happens, they get kicked out of their respective frat houses and they lose their housing. So both of them are really desperate for just finding a housing situation, but also for money. Both of them for different reasons. And they stumble upon, both of them respectively, not knowing of each other, that they're replying to the same ad. They stumble upon this ad where they get invited to join the adult entertainment business. So both of them go on to this audition and they find each other there. They hate each other's guts because of what has happened, but they know that this is their only shot, so they kind of have to move past their rivalry that they have and their dislike for each other. So this is the moment where we see what desperation can kind of do for people, in a positive way, I have to say, because both of them didn't expect to have this amazing opportunity thrown into their lives, and it was just amazing. I really loved it. I loved how their characters were developed. I loved how their conflict was solved. I loved their backstories. I loved the side characters within the story. I loved how the author was really respectful towards the adult entertainment industry. I really liked this book. I highly recommend it. It's part of like a standalone series, the Nashville Neighborhood series, I think it's called. This is the 4th book within the series, and I have to say that this is really my favorite one out of them. Next up, I picked up the 2nd book within the Shot Caller series. The first one is called Lev, and I read it really a while back. I don't even remember when it was, but then a friend of mine told me that there is a follow-up to this book and I didn't know about it, so I looked it up on Storytel. I saw that it's available as an audiobook, so I definitely wanted to read it, and I just decided to pick it up because I was in the mood for a mafia romance. And this is part of a mafia world where we have, in this book, brothers, best friend, and also second chance romance. Also, the always been you trope is present here, and really the mafia setting is one that I was familiar with because of the first book, so I wanted to jump into it right away. The book is called Vic, I don't know if I mentioned it, by Belle Aurora, and it's one that I gave 4 stars to. Really, we have in this book also kind of an obsessed hero, someone who has always loved the heroine, someone who knows that he's going to end up with her, but he's dealing with a lot of things within his life. He's kind of at a different stage in his life, and he has a very difficult situation thrown into his backstory that she doesn't know about, and he doesn't feel comfortable with sharing his backstory with her, which is why they split up, even though they were together for some time. And they just have this amazing connection together that they can't stay away from each other. But she's like, if you cannot open up to me, then we shouldn't be together. So they have this obstacle that they need to overcome, and it's really a part of the story of how will he go through that and then get her back, because this is ultimately his goal, to really get her back. It was a bit too long. This was my only gripe with it, but it was still very enjoyable, very much the type of mafia romance that will get you want to know what's going to happen between those two, especially because already from the start you feel like they're destined to be together. So yeah, I did enjoy this one and I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I read a book that is quite short, so it's one that you can just pick up as a palate cleanser, if you will. The book is called Looks Good on Paper, and it's by Kilby Blades. And this book is one that involves a Euro trip, and in the end it's mostly set in Italy, which I always love. We have our heroine Zuri, who is a customer service representative for a company, and she kind of has had it with her job, especially because she doesn't feel very appreciated, while she does give a lot of ideas to the company that she works for. And the company was actually a startup, so because of some happenings within the internal kind of setting of that company, she gets quite a large payout. And with that payout, she decides that she's going to take a Euro trip, visiting some friends and also visiting a pen pal that she has recently met. So this pen pal is at the beginning presented as one guy. I think his name was Alessandro from Italy. But it's actually a situation of, and I forgot to tell you, it's actually a retelling, this story of Cyrano de Bergerac. If you're not familiar with that story, it's a classic story of two brothers, one of them being very attractive, the other one not so much. The attractive guy is very shallow and not very smart, while the not so attractive guy is very smart. And the one who is very attractive falls first for this woman, but he wants to communicate with her in a beautiful way, so he enlists his brother to help him write some letters. So basically, the heroine falls in love with the visual of one of the brothers, but the actual inside of the other. So this is a kind of loose retelling of that story, with the only exception that both of the brothers are actually gorgeous. So she kind of has this pen pal that she has been exchanging letters with, and she wants to visit him in Italy. And the kind of mistaken identity trope within this story is very much present, because she meets one of the brothers and then the second brother, and they need to be pretending to be each other for the sake of those letters that were exchanged. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed the setting. I enjoyed also the part of Zuri being extremely intelligent, as well as her actual love interest, Nico. But I had a very difficult time, even though it was quite short, to get through it, because it's narrated in the third person. And typically third person narration within audiobooks I can get through, but this one really, I don't know why, it was like dragging for me, even though it's quite short. So I gave this one 3.5 to 4 stars. The story is really 4 stars for me, but the experience of reading it is like 3.5 stars. But yeah, it's a summary read. It's one that takes place in Italy. You have a lot of beautiful exchanges between the two with the letters. And yeah, if you like Cyrano de Bergerac, the story, then you will like this one, because it's quite a good retelling in my opinion. So a lot of the people that I've been following have been reading books by Avery Keelan. They've been recommending books, especially the ones that are centering on the hockey romance sphere that she's writing in. And I found out that Storytel has one of her books uploaded as an audiobook, and the book is called The Enforcer. So I decided to pick it up because, you know, I'm on a hockey kick, so I don't mind reading any hockey sports romance stories at the moment. I love to see which one will be my favorite, so I decided to pick it up. And I have to say that it wasn't a favorite of mine. I gave it 3 stars. The book centers on Violet and Nash. They both of them were together at some point at the start of their college years for about a year, but then Nash did something to screw up the relationship, so they separated. And fast forward a couple of years, I think it's their graduating year, he's on the hockey team and she is doing this traineeship of being like a physical therapist of some sort, and she's being assigned to be the apprentice of their physical therapy of the hockey team. So she needs to be in forced proximity with him. She needs to face the fact that they're going to talk out what happened. He is kind of reluctant at the beginning that she's joining their team in this position, but then he sees it as kind of an opportunity to clear out the air, and actually he finds out that he still has feelings for her, so he starts to pursue her. So this is very much a second chance romance, but I don't know why, it just whenever it's a new adult setting, if the new adult setting is set in the like first years of college and they behave in a certain way that makes me understand why they're still immature, I can get on board with that, because typically people who are 19, 20, 21 years old, they typically don't know what they're doing. They don't have their kind of life plan set in front of them. They don't have a lot of experience, so they make mistakes, so I can forgive that. But if they kind of are still behaving in a certain way when they're at the end of their new adult era or kind of at the end of their college experience, I am kind of bothered by it. I don't know. I just want them to have some kind of growth within their characters and react in a more mature way. And I don't know, there was just something about this story that didn't vibe too well with me. It's not like I didn't enjoy it at all, so I gave it 3 stars, but really it wasn't a favorite of mine. I'm going to need to see whether I'm going to pick up more by this author to see whether it was a one-off. But yeah, it was a good read. It was an okay read. It wasn't something to write home about, but yeah, if you want to try it out, let me know if you liked it as well or not. So I have talked about on multiple occasions how much I love Caitlin from The Love Librarian and her recommendations. So I was really looking forward to reading any books by Hannah Bonam Young because she has been recommending all of their books on her channel, raving about them and letting everyone know how amazing this author is. And I was so happy to see that the first book within a series was uploaded onto Storytel as an audiobook. The book is called Next of Kin, and I immediately picked it up once it released as an audiobook, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to reading the second one once it releases, because I heard that the second one is even better than the first. So this book has an amazing type of premise that I really haven't encountered before in other books, and that really had me so intrigued. We have 2 people in their new adult stages, so they're 20-ish, I think, 20 something years old. Both of them have a very difficult background. So the heroine Chloe, her mother is a drug addict, very flighty, and she has given her up for adoption. And then the hero Warren, his family is also very flighty, and something has happened to them. So both of them need to take care of their siblings. Chloe has a baby sister that she needs to take care of, and she's literally a baby who was just newborn at the start of the book. And then Warren has a teenage brother who is also deaf. So there is great representation for that as well, because the heroine actually has, like, her adoptive dad uses sign language, so she knows sign language and she can communicate with the hero's brother. Within the setting, they get invited to live together so that they can present a united front and kind of have financial stability in front of the social services so that they can gain custody of both of their respective siblings. And it's really a strangers to friends to lovers situation within the plot. And there's just so many little things that made sense for me within the book, and so many amazing little moments, especially when Warren is taking care of the baby so that Chloe can, like, take a shower or can just go grocery shopping on her own. Just little things, and just giving her the car because she doesn't have a car to get her to specific appointments. There's just these amazing little things that happen within the story that I absolutely loved. I didn't give it a full 5 stars because there were a couple of things, just really minor things, that I would have liked to see differently within the story, but it's definitely a very enjoyable read, a very pleasant surprise for me, and I've given it 4.5 stars, and I'm really looking forward to the second book, as well as the new release by this author that was just really highly praised by Caitlin. The book is called Out on a Limb. It's going to release next month, and I'm going to pick it up once it releases. I'm going to see whether it's going to be coming out on audio, if I have to wait for that, but otherwise I'm going to pick up the ebook from Kindle and see how that goes. But I'm really curious to read more by this author. The last book I'm going to talk about is If Only for the Summer by Alexandra Warren, and I've been trying to explain the plot of this book, but I'm not succeeding very well in explaining what it is about. I have to say that this book will be featured in a vlog of mine that I'm going to try to upload as soon as possible, even though that vlog, I just don't know what it's gonna look like, because you're gonna have to wait and see about how that's gonna turn out. But yeah, this book I picked up kind of on a whim. Maybe because I think, again, Caitlin recommended it at some point, I'm not sure, but I saw that I have it on Storytel again, so I picked it up. This book features two people who are going for a summer to this apartment, and the apartment is owned by this couple who are married. The woman within the story, Nova, she is best friends with the woman, and then the guy, his name is Guy, he's best friends with the man within this married couple. And both of them get invited to spend some time in Miami just for the summer. But those married people don't really kind of schedule it very well. They didn't know of each other, that both of them have invited these people, so both of them come to this apartment not knowing that they're going to have to share the apartment. So we have a forced proximity situation, strangers to lovers, and also the single dad trope, because the guy he actually is going to spend the summer with his son. And the beautiful thing about this story is that Guy and his son's mother have, again, an amazing relationship together. They're co-parenting very well together. So that is a point within the book that I absolutely loved. And also the fact that Nova is such an amazing character, that she's a teacher, I believe, so she really has a very good communication with the son within the book. And then we have a hero who he's immediately attracted to her, so he kind of really pursues her immediately, even though she has a boyfriend within the book, which is kind of a bit of a conflict within the story. But yeah, I really liked the story. It was a quick read for me. I felt the connection between the main characters, so it was definitely a very pleasant read for me. I gave it 4 stars and I definitely recommend it. So yeah, I have to say, apologies for all my ramblings within this video. I didn't really prepare very well for it, but I hope you enjoyed it nevertheless. And please let me know if you've read any of the stories that I mentioned within this wrap up, and let me know what you thought about them. Let me know which were your favorite books last month, and also let me know if I should be on the lookout for anything that you've just recently read that I haven't yet. So I hope to see you very soon in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care. Bye-bye.